You're finally here. You know, I made quite a lot of videos to be worthy of a response from you, but mate, not even 4 was enough. After you ignored the last one, I had to resort to some major underhandedness. I mean, after all, I am your biggest fan.
Chewis.
My name is not Chewis! It's the Gaming Rift now. All I wanted was to be in your video. I only wanted to be in it. And what did you say to me?
But Miles, who just lost to Kraven, somehow beats Spider-Man, and even outstrengths him in this one-shot here.
I know this is the most controversial topic that Peter should have beaten Miles, and I think the Gaming Rift has a better explanation of how Miles won, and I'll show that now because he can explain it way better than I can, and he actually has some really amazing points.
This then leads straight into the boss battle with Miles Morales, with this fight getting a huge amount of flack, and I'm not too sure why, as it's pretty obvious this wasn't a fair fight from the start. Peter immediately...
Because it's past 2 times. Because it's past 2 times. Because it's past 2 times. Miles is craving for his tea, so he just wants to get Pete out of the way so he can go drink his tea and go drink his tea and go. Because it's past 2 times. Because it's past 2 times.
Hello guys, it is I, the ultimate Joker, coming off of my throne to finally deal with this little flea around my ass and his 5 videos, and I'm joined with Resikin.
Yo, what's good? 5 videos, man. That is fucking insane. Every time I'm like, alright, he has to have something else to talk about. Nope, he just keeps dishing out another one of these videos.
Yeah, I will emphasize that we basically have to, cut this up a lot just for the sake of time, as these videos add up to 3 hours just about, roughly guessing. Someone could do the math. And yeah, we will not be touching on the nerf one again. I do not really care to sit around and watch some buffoons, whether it be Crispy or this loser, justify a human woman reacting faster than a superhero. Oh, he's so tired that his reaction time got divided by 50. Yeah, we're not.
Bro, dude, you have to understand that he's 25. As a lot of the commenters in their comment sections point out, he's old. This is an old Spider-Man. You know, once you turn 25, everyone knows that physiologically you begin to decline. Actually, nobody knows that because it's not true, but I don't know, just,
Oh, yeah, right. For a second, I thought I was supposed to ignore what I saw in sports games. My bad.
Hey. Do you have any statistical evidence for that? Your pattern recognition skills do not count.
Let's start.
You guys really like the first debunk video I made, so hey, we're gonna bring you in an even longer one. I hope you enjoy. But essentially, Ultimate Joker is back, and he is claiming Insomniac Spider-Man is not comic accurate. And oh boy, I can't wait to see what batshit crazy things he says. I mean, he's totally not gonna...
You can show the screenshot on screen, but this dude Grift has been silently hunting your channel, silently doing reconnaissance on your channel for the past few months now, because he says that you're back as though this video came after his response to the first one, but it didn't. It had been uploaded for, I believe, over a month by the time he made this video. So it's just him going through your channel looking for videos to leech off of.
I mean, fun fact, he edited himself with a screenshot of this comic book accuracy video. Yeah, the screenshot was only 4 hours after the upload, when the video didn't even have 200 views yet. We've just started and we've already caught a lot. Insomniac Spider-Man isn't comic book accurate at all. Now, whether you want to view that as a good or bad thing is up to you.
I mean, personally, it doesn't bother me either way, whether it's accurate or not, because at the end of the day, this is just an adaptation. They can take the source material and tweak it to make it however they want, whilst remaining faithful to the original IP. This is their verse, they can do what they want with it.
But it's pretty much a fact that it's objectively not like its source material at all. The point here is that how far can an adaptation go without not being the same thing anymore? You don't just get to say adaptation when the strafes just become completely ridiculous to the point of being nothing like its source material.
Something entirely different, just with the same name. It's not it anymore, even if you give it the same name.
Yeah, we'll probably cut this video right to those examples.
Because I'm going to take a guess that you're going to ride off Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Web of Shadows, and all that other stuff that you did in the previous video, even though those aren't 100% comic accurate either. At the end of the day, who cares about this whole comic accuracy thing? I don't see why this video was even something you felt needed to be made.
Even though they only strayed from its source. This guy has no comprehension of nuance at all. Just because something strays from the source material a little, by a slighter degree, they're not all in the same boat. There's a difference between, I don't know, Toby just shooting webs from his organic wrist, as opposed to more drastic changes. That's my point. Yeah, sure, every adaptation has something they did a little differently from the books. but he's trying to pretend like there's no difference in something being entirely different. There's a difference between a slight tweak and a 180.
Yeah, definitely. A 180 is totally different. I feel like the problem with this guy is that, like you said, he has no ability to understand nuance or even like scale or degree. I don't know, maybe he flunked a statistics class, but the thing is, things can be different without being completely different. The thing is, Insomniac strays from the source material, and that's fine. It takes creative liberties, some of which are pretty cool, but it does it to too extreme of a degree to be considered comic accurate in a lot of regards.
Like more divisive examples, like BVS. Yeah, me and Resikin, we love that shit. It's Giga.
The Ultimate Edition.
Even people who don't like those movies, right? If you were to confront them with like the comic book accuracy differences, they probably wouldn't be able to say that Zack Snyder's BVS or various other projects of his strayed as far as, say, Venom being Harry and not Eddie Brock, or Scream, or a whole slew of other examples I delve into, like Kraven's Last Hunt.
Yeah, as opposed to like totally made up things, you see Zack Snyder takes elements from different comic books and puts them into the one film. Like Lex Luthor is heavily based on Lex Luthor from Superman Birthright. Superman, as you know, Henry Cavill is based on Superman All-Star to an extended degree. And the Batman, as everyone knows, is based at least partially on the Batman from The Dark Knight Returns. And even then, it's not just copy-paste. There are creative liberties that are taken, but it's still within the framework of the original comic books.
I'll emphasize MJ in those comics, which differentiates her from Lois Lane, is that she's a teenager in high school. I guess the job, but like she's not, like, even if I give Ultimate Comics that, she's not really that tied to it. As I said, a teenage Mary Jane still in high school versus a grown woman sneaking into military bases. Like, come on.
Superman and other films stray from the comics and the source material, yet you don't make videos that are 25 minutes long on those for some reason. Almost as if you just hate the Insomniac verse.
Yeah, but like maybe it's because videos on the Insomniac verse concerning comic accuracy haven't been made, so he's filling in the void. Meanwhile, videos on the comic accuracy of those franchises, especially the Snyderverse and Raimiverse, have already been made to an extended degree.
Well, you know, you actually really nailed the thought process. No one has the balls to go after these motherfuckers because they just get a bunch of drones on their shit. I'm doing it because no one else will. But not only that, this strays more than any other example you can name off. As I said before in the video. Like, honestly, this response is so redundant because I pretty much nailed everything very well the first time around when making the video. Goodness.
The thing is, he's just responding to what he thinks you are rather than what you are, which I think is a problem with this YouTuber and Krispy Kreme in particular, because I remember Krispy Kreme, one of his main arguments was that, oh, just because we didn't see it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And now over here, it's kind of like the opposite of that. It's like, oh, I'm not seeing it, so it must have happened. He must have thought this way, even though he never said it.
You know, in this video, I actually cut to me holding books with like a shitty phone instead of my proper camera. I was sort of rushing it, but I bet my left ass cheek, he wouldn't be able to cut to a book collection either. This guy's reeking of the energy of someone that doesn't actually read books, but probably gets all of his information off of like the fucking shorts feed or some shit. I highly doubt. Too busy gaming every day.
What if, stay with me, okay? What if this was an adaptation of the comics and they instead gave her different qualities whilst also making her the love interest of Peter Parker? Like, this isn't the 60s anymore. Women aren't just eye candy to be ogled at. They're allowed to have their own talents that go beyond looking good, guys.
Okay, so this isn't the 60s. Okay, I don't understand this argument because what you're kind of doing is undermining the entire modeling industry and acting industry. There's a lot more that goes into that than just looking good. Meanwhile, to be a journalist, you can pretty much just type anything these days.
But yeah, I mean, like, those older jobs are actually, I believe, a more skilled profession anyway. Like, I cut to an example of her singing. I think a singer...
On Broadway, yeah. Yeah, no, it's just, it goes into, like, this stereotype that it's only, like, hard labor that counts. You know, I don't think that's necessarily true, that one has more honor than the other. Because I just feel like what you're saying is just inherently sexist, especially towards those industries.
Yeah, this nigga's pretending like she has an OnlyFans or something.
Yeah. No, I bet you he would defend her if she did have that.
Yeah, this guy's
But
white
anyway, carry
knighting
on.
for shit he's not gonna get. Well, whatever. Inner differences like the origins of Miles, Rhino's new attack direction, which I don't dig too much, or more goofy decisions like Hammerhead becoming a cyborg. Although there's some other dumb moments that are also unlike the source material, such as Spider-Man getting his ass kicked by Silver Sable twice.
Oh yeah, because Peter's totally going to be going all out against a peak human. You know, the same guy who can stop a punch from Rhino can lift up fucking trains and can even fight 5 supervillains at the same time, to a degree. Oh yeah, you really think that guy is going to be going all out against a peak human?
Even though Sable is just a... Do we really think that guy's gonna lose to a human? Like, you handle this. You're gonna articulate it perfectly.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, the fact that he can take down all those people, like you mentioned, yet is unable to stop himself from getting his ass whooped by this quote-unquote peak human, it's markedly inconsistent, especially since this is a potentially life or death situation for Spider-Man, considering that he has like both of those guns right at him. Like, if Silver Sable hadn't spared him, he could have died in an even more cornier way than Kraven had killed him in the second game.
Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of Spider-Man's villains are people that he already has to pull his punches against anyway. Like Doc Ock when he gets a regular blow on something that's not the arms. Check out my review of the first game if you want more plot details about them.
Fucking Christ, Joker. I'm not even halfway through part 2 of my response to you yet. Why do you have to leak the next video for me to look at? A review of Marvel Spider-Man's story. Oh, fucking Christ. That's gonna be a fun one to go through, isn't it?
I love how recurring, you're gonna see this in his other videos, but he makes it as though like he's like somehow morally obliged to make responses to your videos and like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I suppose I have to. It's like, no, you just want to. Like, it's kind of like, it's like kind of like the pick me girl. It's like, stop, I don't want to, like, don't make me, because she like wants the attention. She wants people to like insist she does something. Like, that's exactly what he's doing. But since no one's insisting that he makes more, he's just kind of being the encourager to the pick me himself. He's 2 in 1.
I have one that's more accurate to that. It's more like the, how dares you attack the multi-million-dollar company. But yeah, in Spider-Man Miles Morales' game, they made her a young, bustin' black girl, genius, with personal ties to Miles Morales, as they were childhood friends. Now, this is admittedly a strafe, but I don't think the 180 is as bad or as drastically different as Lois Jane, or Venom and Kraven, who I'll get to later, but yeah.
Hang on a freaking minute. So, in the comics, Tinkerer is an old white man, and Insomniac changed him to be a young black girl, and you're saying that this isn't a problem? Yet you're willing to criticize them changing MJ's personality, but keeping her looks vaguely similar. I'm just gonna say it, the only reason he likes Finn is because she's somewhat attractive. Which again, it's so hypocritical.
Unlike Lois Jane, these changes made with Tinkerer didn't turn her into a ripoff of another... Okay, this one's a little funny. At the end of the day, I didn't really... And it may seem so in this video, so maybe I could give him some leeway here. I didn't really completely excuse this, but at the end of the day, it's more like, people don't really give a crap about, like, the original version of Tinker. I still criticize them for this, but it's not a character that's essential. And in my review of Miles Morales, I go on to say that this could have been covered differently, like just having her be like the niece of Tinker. I'll give him some leeway there, but as I said, I don't think I really let her off the hook, or else I just wouldn't have included her in the video at all. But I don't know, it's not as insulting given that, as I'll say here, she didn't just rip someone off. They didn't stray from the source material just to copy Lois or to turn Venom into Doomsday, etc. Really see Tinker as a big deal.
You bigoted piece of shit. The only reason he likes the changes made to Tinkerer is because she's physically attractive to an extent. What is this guy? How does anyone take this guy seriously? 800 fucking subscribers. 800 fucking morons sub to this guy. Wow.
I'm going to raise... Yo, what is this incel shit? I just cut to like a bustin' photo as a joke, hence the skull emoji. Yo, dude, this is some incel shit. He just saw a funny image and rocked with that. Okay, whatever.
But, yeah. No, I think it's pretty clear that you're mentioning the creative differences rather than appearances. The appearances, there's just something like a layer on top of that. That's obviously, like, appearance is important. Why? Because you're going to be looking at this character all the time, or else you don't know who the character is. It's not like you're reading a book. So, obviously, a part of those creative choices is based on how you make the character look. So, for him to act like that's the only reason, again, he's falling back into this, like, whole black-white paradigm. Like, you can't comprehend, like, there's more as like Shrek would say, layers to a character than just one.
Yeah, I already mentioned, like, character traits, things you could get more of if you watch my Miles Morales review, but anyway. Spider-Man 3 for its comic book accuracy in regards to Venom, but then praised the even less accurate Spider-Man 2's progressive politics riddled story.
No worries, dude. I'd be more than happy to invite you to the Discord server. We can do a collab in debunking this video. It's called Peter Parker in the Insomniac games isn't comic accurate at all. I think you join forces with me in debunking this video because by your own logic, you're a hypocrite. Oh wait, I'm currently debunking that right now, aren't I?
Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck did he even say there? Do you understand what the fuck was? Dude, this nigga's fucking speaking gibberish. What the fuck did I just hear?
I think it's just British. He might have been recording this on a Tuesday, innit? But regardless, like, you're not debunking shit. You're just offering your own perspective. Regardless of whether or not we like you or what you're saying, it has some validity to it because at the end of the day, this is fiction that we're commenting on. So for you to pretend that you're debunking something or something's objectively right or wrong when it comes to art discourse is just objectively, yes, I'm going to use that word, objectively false. You can try and be subjective about it, but the objective truth is that all criticism of art is subjective, which you would have known if you were like in college or studying something instead of, just being at home playing Insomniac, Peter, my favorite.
Yeah, we'll get more of it when he debunks a review of all things, but...
Every single time Kraven fights someone in this game, it's by himself.
Anyway, dude, the clip that just plays right after this shows otherwise. He doesn't hunt them down, he fights them. The thugs gathered people like Scorpion and a few others for him. I'm not saying I see this as a huge deal, but that is what happened. People may be calling it Giga, but Kraven is too cracked to the point where it sort of destroys the concept of his character.
How is he cracked at all within the context of the verse? You do realize that people with no superpowers at all, like Wilson Fisk, can ragdoll Spider-Man through concrete walls?
Kingpin didn't kill Scorpion or kill Spider-Man. I mean, like, knocking him around, sure, yeah, but he didn't fucking die. Or, like, tank a Scorpion stab. Like, what? Is now powerful enough to overpower certain strong-as-hell characters via brute force. He overpowers Scorpion with ease, even though Scorpion has definitely been portrayed as someone who's nearly as strong or even as fast as Spider-Man. At the very least, he wouldn't be far off based upon what I've seen in general adaptations.
Remember how I said this guy was consistent? Once again, he's using external media to justify the power levels of a character within this specific media he's criticizing, even though, as I've said, characters and power scaling and all that other shit can be different within different verses. There are some versions of Spider-Man that can't break out of steel fucking chains, and you're gonna try to say that this guy is comparable to that? Like, what are you on about?
The reason he's referencing external sources, external adaptations of the same character, is to show that there's generally a rule, an unspoken rule of how strong a character is supposed to be. So when you stray so drastically from the rest of those adaptations, you become an exception to that rule, which is why it gets highlighted, not just by Joker, but by, I would say, most unbiased fans of Spider-Man in general, pointing out, oh my gosh, like, Kraven is ridiculously strong in this game. Some people like that. Some people think it's annoying, but at the end of the day, he is overpowered. And yeah, sure, it's another adaptation, but the fact that it's so drastically different from the rest of the adaptations, sure, it still makes it an adaptation, but it doesn't make it comic accurate when considering those other adaptations and how different it's become from them.
Before we get into how wrong this all is, let's get into what Kraven usually is.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. This guy has a romanticized version of Spider-Man, his lore, and his villains in his head, and he will criticize anything and falsely accuse anything of being bad just because they...
Yeah, exactly. You're just arguing with a construct. Like, I like how you just, like, admit, like, what we've been saying all along, that he's arguing with what he thinks you are rather than what you are. So, sure, maybe you're inferring what he is, but it's just not him. So to make it a response video, when in fact you're responding to what you think he is, I don't know, it's just kind of silly. Oh wait, never mind, you're debunking the video, so...
Brock's character, and criticizes Scream because apparently, it's a different character or whatever. It's an adaptation. You know what they are? They take the source material and adapt it.
Kraven is a human being who's borderline an enhanced human being via the...
Yeah, Scream, because he's just a different character or whatever. I like how he restates what you said, but, like, dismisses it. Like, yeah, it's a different character. That's literally the point.
Yeah. I know he's stronger than regular humans, but still, it ain't Spider-Man tier, a little above Captain America tier, at best.
Can you prove how strong Captain America is in the Insomniac verse? Can you prove Captain America even exists in the Insomniac verse? Can you prove any of that, or are you just making baseless claims based on alternate versions of the character compared to the Insomniac version?
I mean, that's a key word, greater or lesser extents. I mean, like, I think greater or lesser extents matter. Someone could just, like, I don't know, barely move a car versus being able to lift it over their shoulder and just chuck it. Yeah, I think that matters.
Yeah, no. It's again, like I mentioned earlier, it's like inability to comprehend, like, scale or degree. It's just black and white for him, or black and white, so, I don't know.
Oh, Kraven's enhanced and so Superman. They're both enhanced.
I'm gonna go on a limb, and just because he's British doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't watch the English Premier League. Because he's probably going to view all the teams and say, well, they're all football teams, they should all be equally good because they're all football teams. No, Chewis, I just want to tell you that's not the case. Some teams are better than others, like Manchester City and Liverpool are better than Leicester City and Leeds United. That's just how it is.
That analogy is gonna be on deaf ears. I'm pretty sure with his build, he'd probably be allergic to a sports field of any sort. Oh, and just to clarify, Spider-Man's black suit in Kraven's Last Hunt isn't the symbiote, it's just a regular suit with the same design.
Okay, so how does any of this have anything to do with Spider-Man 2?
I'm sure these writers at Insomniac didn't read Kraven's Last Hunt and just thought that Kraven was a match for the black suit, when in that comic, it's not the symbiote, it's just a regular cloth suit that shares the same design. I'm sure this guy didn't read it either.
Yeah, probably surface level analysis, yeah. He played it in the game, that's all he needs to know.
Next we have Venom, who's probably the least accurate example I've ever seen in fiction just about.
Oh boy, this ought to be good.
You pretty much have to call him a different character. Although I don't find him to be bad on his own merits either, but he is objectively the least accurate. I may have all the knowledge in this book of mine, but this is so inaccurate that I don't even need this book. He's not Eddie Brock, which basically ends the debate.
Okay, and Venom wasn't Eddie Brock in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon either. Like, why is that?
You serious?
He's basically now a Doomsday-esque villain. Like, people gave Tom Hardy's Venom crap for straying from the source material, which it undeniably did to a higher degree than the petty crap they gave Sam Raimi's Venom. But even Tom Hardy's Venom's differences from its source material isn't as drastic as Insomniac's Venom Doomsday.
I'm actually going to cream myself if he says all this stuff about Insomniac's Venom, but then somehow defends Web of Shadows Venom, even though they do basically the same stuff. Oh, and remember in the previous video how Venom was like a skyscraper-sized monster? Yeah, I'd love to see him defend that.
He's still leaning back, or you want to comment on that one, because I don't think anyone really thought that of Web of Shadows Venom. Like, he's taking the end product of what he was in the final boss fight and dismissing what the heck he was for his first two bosses. That's clearly treated more as an expansion to the core character that he is.
So you mentioned how this Venom doesn't have any humor. Like, the Web of Shadows one did. I remember when Peter first finds Venom's hideout, he's like, "Oh, welcome, meet the children. After all, you are the mother." Which
Oh no, it's not as corny as those MCU movies that have a joke every 2 minutes, so therefore it's not humorous. The jokes have to be constant. Started on Sam Raimi's, which got a bunch of flack with reasons that were nitpicky and petty as hell, while Insomniac's version gets far less blowback. Is it because he's bigger? Is that all that matters? Well, I'll play your little size game and state that Insomniac's Venom is way bigger than comic book Venom, than Raimi's Venom was smaller. The size difference is objectively bigger with Insomniac. Comic Venom is 6'3" and Topher Grace was 5'9", and Insomniac Venom is 10'5".
Okay, and why is this a problem? He's 10'5", who gives a fuck? The height changes so much. You can't even say this is consistent, because I mean, look at something like Transformers, where they deliberately change the size of the characters just to make them badass in a single shot, even though it contradicts the actual size that these characters are.
Why the hell is he talking about Transformers? Anyway, we're gonna skip over that bullshit.
And the thing is, the whole crux of your video is pointing out the double standard. Not necessarily that lack of comic accuracy makes something bad, but the fact that there's a double standard. Like with Venom, like people complain about him being too small, but now this one is ridiculously large, and there's no complaints.
Come on, you're arguing with feet size? That's as objective as it gets. Those are literal numbers you're arguing with. I remember when some shitty, overrated, whiny YouTuber who over-exaggerates problems brought up
Self-aware much?
a so-called con of the symbiote not being able to make multiple spawns in Web of Shadows. And then I saw a bunch of shitty nerds hive and copy and paste that shit as if it was a significant con or stray from the source material.
I mean, I would agree that it's a petty nitpick, but at the same time, you've got no leg to stand on when you're also making petty nitpicks about MJ, Venom, Kraven, and God knows who else.
Okay, are we really gonna compare? I said it pretty well and clear. Are we really about to compare the symbiote being able to multiply to the symbiote not being bonded with Eddie Brock and becoming a world-endangering threat right off of the get-go?
Also, Web of Shadows is a lot more in line with the comics, and then diverges towards the end, because Venom, as an established character, is Eddie Brock, and he's existed for a while. It's not the first time Peter fights Venom, it's not the first time he gets the black suit. But what happens is that there's something of a symbiote mutation, which allows for it to start spreading and replicating like this. Insomniac took this idea and was like, oh, okay, I guess Venom can just do that now, and makes it the crux of his character. Like, that's all he does. That's all, Venom is, someone who wants to make as many symbiotes as possible, rather than something that happens later on as a result of a mutation. So no, they actually fundamentally misunderstood the character, and misunderstood what Web of Shadows was going for, because The Insomniac writers, much like you, my friend, have an inability to comprehend nuance.
Oh, yeah, right, and I think I go on to mention, in quotation, that it's a literal mutation. In combination with the plot itself, with Peter saying lines, yeah, something about the symbiote is different now. Mary Jane is still in the second game, and now she's uglier than ever. Ugliest normal human under 30 I've ever seen, just about, to be honest. But anyway, on top of her being Lois Jane and having a bunch of bitchy personality traits...
I feel like this guy got rejected by a girl at some point in his life, and now he just associates any woman who is strong and independent as being bitchy. Seriously, when is she ever bitchy in this game, other than when she's bonded with the symbiote and bringing out the worst aspects of her?
And take out Kraven's hunters
I'd like
along with
slowly
the,
zoom
a
into
large
it.
number of symbiotes, including this one that's as big as Hulk. God, this game's writing is a fucking mess.
I love that he mentions MJ taking on a behemoth, but then he shows her running away from it in the gameplay. Like, I just love when people do that. They show stuff in the background that contradicts their points. Okay, so you admit that she trained with one of the top tier fighters of the verse, and you're wondering why she's suddenly, like, Lara Croft? Like, you do realize this is fiction, people learn faster, the standards are different, and again, Silver Sable, as you mentioned previously, can even catch Spider-Man off guard, she's that good at fighting, so why is it so difficult to believe that MJ can take on low-tier symbiotes and stuff, especially when she has technology that counters them?
Mary Ray Skywalker Jane.
For subscribers, I want to point out, 800 people think this guy's worth listening to.
Web of Shadows had a Mary Jane segment where she was wielding a gun too.
Yeah, and
but she wasn't
3,000
dozen
people think it's worth listening to, like, some deranged British mutt. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're trying to say here.
I guarantee my audience is, like, more adult. You could tell just by going through the fucking comments. Like, come on. Well, she was helping Spider-Man.
Now this is blatantly hypocritical, because in the other video, you criticized that MJ was helping both Peter and Miles take down Venom in the final battle, yet here you're gonna say, oh, well, she wasn't doing anything, she was just doing XYZ.
Dude, what the fuck? Yeah, talking about, like, being an assist once. There's no scene in Web of Shadows where MJ's just gonna run into the symbiote hive by herself and go ham. Yeah, like, what the heck? And she's not up against Venom here, it's mostly underlings, like, come on. But despite the book having some decent art...
And again, I feel like the pages of this guy's comic books are all crusty because of the amount of times he's wiped himself to sleep over these fucking images. Why is it a problem? You do realize not all women are this attractive.
Man,
Like, this is clear.
disgusting.
Dude, what?
No, hold up. This guy's disgusting, man, bro. Who the fuck even brings up that kind of shit?
Dude, these are comic panels, dude. It's not like I've taken lewd images before just for laughs, but dude, these are actual panels that he's bitching at, dude. Go bitch at the artist.
Yeah, no, he's just gross, man. I don't know why, like, people like exist. Like, we need to
would've taken
trim
Dan's
this
plot more
down. It's
seriously.
pretty long.
Really? You would have taken that more seriously? I have two very big, round, firm ideas why you would say that.
Black Cat pulls an Insomniac Silver Sable and takes Spider-Man. Why is this guy assuming titties so fucking much? Damn, dude. Just because they decided to use some good Black Cat images? Dude, I don't think you could really find a Black Cat image very rarely framed in a way that's not such. Like, that was just a comic cover.
Why is that the case? Because Black Cat is an attractive character, so she's always going to be depicted as attractive, even if her face doesn't necessarily look the same. You know, with PS5 and Jane, they went out of their way to make her as ugly as possible. So yeah.
This guy's a fucking cock. With his own web shooters, like, what the hell is this? What a joke and a waste of my time researching for shit that you guys didn't even read or research yourself.
To be honest, I don't think you had time to read it. You were too busy creaming your crocs over the artwork of the comics. Although seriously, again, Black Cat taking a W over Spider-Man. Like, you really think he's going to be going all out against one of his potential love interests? You fuck. Like, you have no idea what circumstance is and how people don't always...
Oh my
I'll probably
God.
cut this shit again. Okay, look, I'm holding back against my younger brother who's 3, and I'm like, say, 13. Sure, I'm not going all out, but he's not gonna beat my ass still.
Yeah, you're still gonna subdue him. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we mentioned this in like the Krispy Kreme response, the Krispy Kreme response video, but like, Spider-Man often fights people that he knows and cares about in real life. As a matter of fact, I would say that like good half of his characters are like that, his villains. So, like, yeah, we're taking circumstances to account here. He's gonna be able to subdue them.
Yeah, who knows, but with this guy's, like, gaming everyday build, maybe he would lose to a toddler, who fucking knows. Given that her screen time and story was quite minimal, with her arc being that she won't use the Doctor Strange teleporting device to steal stuff, but she'll use it to see her girlfriend, Paris.
Yeah, because funnily enough, what people do in relationships is that they would bend heaven, hell, and the earth just to do anything for them. I mean, that's pretty much what people do in good relationships. It sounds like you haven't experienced that much.
It sounds like you haven't experienced it at all. Ooh.
Dude, yeah, there is no way someone looked at this face and let the nigga go down on her, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know, maybe on Grindr.
One day, man.
On top of that game's overabundance of progressive propaganda shit that doesn't belong in a game that a bunch of 8-year-olds will play, as said in my last video.
And as I said in my previous video, I guess we can add homophobic to the list of things that you are guilty of and reasons why people shouldn't watch you. Again, it's set in New York in 2023. It would be less immersive if these elements weren't there. And again, that doesn't make the game...
Pause it, please.
Yeah,
Let's add allow us to add homophobic to the list of reasons why you shouldn't watch The Gaming Rift, as he assumed that just because I'm friends with Ultimate Joker, that somehow makes me a homosexual. How dare you make such an assumption? How dare you undermine the dignity of the homosexual community by suggesting that any two men who are involved in any sort of a relationship must be homosexual? How disgusting of you.
Yeah, dude, this is just a big gotcha on, like, the fake progressive crap or whatever. This guy doesn't really mean this crap, given that comment. I mean, like, sure, you could probably catch me making some sort of comment like that, but I'm not gonna pretend to be all friendly with this crap. This guy, as you can see with the comment here, he doesn't mean any of that crap. He had it as a go-to for an insult. Cancel culture, go after this guy. He's pretending to be an ally. I'm not. Or least comic accurate superhero game I have ever seen, on top of being the most hook one.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Just because gay people, black people, bisexual people, Ukrainian people are all in this game, it automatically makes it woke. Fucking idiot.
Now, oh, this is where it was. Yeah. I never mentioned any of this crap. I forgot. This was the cream of the crop in terms of proofs that this guy is lying. I gave the Miles Morales game, a more, I guess, minority-centric game, the best score of all the Insomniac games. And you could go through this shit. This guy's literally throwing shit out of thin air. I've never said the word Ukraine once. I've never said that. You could go through sound bites or whatever. You'll never be able to clip me even mentioning the word Ukraine. I talk about things that are in front of me. Never said that word.
Because it's irrelevant. That's the thing. Like, all along, Chewis is not necessarily arguing with you. He's arguing with a construct in his mind of who he thinks you are. And because he has an inability to comprehend nuance, he inserts things into a left-right paradigm. You're either left-wing, you're accepting and loving of all of this nonsense, or you're totally opposed to all of it. When in reality, some people, like a supreme intelligence, may just be able to pick and choose depending on their own free will, which God endowed them with.
Yeah, this guy just has like that, I don't know, that UK ultra instinct of just wanting to call everything racist, just like that Resident Evil 5 article writer. I think he was mad at the little lime joke we made earlier, but dude, I'll bear with you guys. I honestly really apologize for the 6% of my UK audience for this guy making you guys look bad, but dude, I've noticed a pattern with these people. So quick to just call something racist for no fucking reason, dude. Time I'll clarify, I'm not one of those people who views comic book accuracy as a measuring factor for quality, although I can see some problems with things being a drastic change for the worse, and a lot of these changes in Spider-Man 2 are sort of for the worse.
So you don't believe that not being comic accurate is a bad thing when affecting quality, but you think that the changes that the Insomniac verse made were bad and for the worse. Okay, yeah, I see nothing wrong with that sentence.
And I don't believe this game taught any better examples of these characters such as...
Yeah, but it's like personal opinion. It's laying out why it's not comic accurate, and then saying that, hey, I don't necessarily like these choices.
We had the art video downloaded, but on second thought, we're not even going to bother playing this one, as it's too similar to the Nerf subject we said we wouldn't cover. This cuck cannot refute that Spider-Man 2 is the only game that has the main character on his ass in the art, as opposed to many other games we cited, such as 5 Arkham games, The Force Unleashed, Web of Shadows, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, and Shattered Dimensions. Like, I'll play his shitty game better and give a better argument for him by mentioning Ultimate Alliance 1 where Mephisto has Spider-Man in his grasp, but even then, that's a game with no singular protagonist, and it's basically Satan, as opposed to Spider-Man being on his ass in the concept art for images that aren't drastically different from what happens in the game, such as Peter ending up on his ass before the symbiote even fully infects Harry, or symbiote MJ beating up Spider-Man before they pussied out of being original and, you know, ripped off Scream. My artist gave it a skim while we were on Discord, and yeah, he heard too much dog shit like going after production quality on what's clearly a raw Discord conversation, similar to podcasts where stuttering gets to be left in. Bear in mind that he's also going after what's clearly shown as a rough follow-up video instead of going after the main video. It's like commenting on the interview after the sports game instead of saying anything about the actual main meat of the points. Similar to the parts of my review he cut out, he didn't cover this because I was about to embarrass the writing of those modern games. I don't want to hear about production quality from this loser, given that one could clearly tell my videos have more production effort despite the views not being as high. This uncreative cuck reused thumbnails for all his shitty videos in tandem with his thumbnail effort generally being low effort. Like, it's more noticeable when you go back and forth from his dogshit commentary to my well-scored and edited shit. My shitposts probably have more effort. None of his editing timetables look this complex, but anyway, I'll end off on one funny relatable analogy that I should have said in the art video. When some little kid draws their superhero that they love, like Spider-Man or Superman, Anakin Skywalker, etc., they don't draw them on their ass for the scene they imagined because they like that character. Unlike Insomniac and their cuckshot cinematography as Peter lies under a fridge. Next video, we already wasted too much time on the last one, but for the sake of this one, as it's my PS4 review apparently being debunked, we're mostly going to focus on the core gameplay fundamentals while skipping the story things we already mentioned in the last one.
Yeah, for some reason he really likes using the word debunked, although I'm sure he doesn't know what it means I mean, the case can be made, perhaps, for debunking a comic accuracy video, even though Joker made it clear beyond the shadow of a doubt that Insomniac did indeed stray from the source material. But for this is a review. A review is basically just someone going over a piece of media and giving their thoughts on it, which is what Joker does in this. He actually gives it a fairly positive score, 7 out of 10. But to say that you're debunking a review just means that you fundamentally misunderstand both what debunking is and what a review in and of itself is. But let's see what this clown has in store for us.
The final battle of Rift vs. Joker, debunking his PlayStation 4 Spider-Man review. I hope that you all enjoy it.
The final battle. I mean, this is like some sort of like, shitty low-budget franchise where every installment is supposed to be the last one to get, fans hyped, and then they just make 5 more, and each one gets progressively worse. So this is pretty much what this is, because this is definitely not the last video.
Yeah, I think like 2 more, and counting probably. He's gonna do it again, and we're not responding to that crap.
Gameplay, which is the thing that matters most. Despite some people put story over gameplay in a video game somehow. But anyway, of all the superhero games I played, Insomniac Spider-Man games has got to be the most cheese handed to you combat I have ever seen, not counting young kid superhero games like Spider-Man Flight or Lego games.
Oh boy, can't wait to see this.
There's so many ways to insta-kill enemies that it's not even funny, or fun for better words. Impact webs aren't insta-kill as you can send someone into a wall, even if they're 5 or more meters away.
Impact webbing is useless against the stronger enemies, and also you only have a couple of uses of it before it needs to recharge. And you know how you recharge it? Well, you need to perform finishers, and to perform finishers you need to build up a combo to fill your focus meter, which inherently requires skill.
Yeah, it's a gadget where Spidey can essentially force...
Okay, I'm not even gonna let him list off every single gadget here. As you guys can see here, this is the weapon wheel. To the very right is impact webs. Sure, what he said was actually true. Some of these abilities have to recharge in the middle of combat. But you see the number on that Resikin? Very right. Those are impact webs.
Yeah.
That's 4. So that's 4 people dead. Second to the top left, the one that, yeah, that's a laser trip mine. That's 4 people dead. Not just 4 people dead. The trip mine, as I would go into later, it can hit like another person and they both go into each other. So that's potentially 8 people dead, in addition to the other crap that's in the game, like Web Blossom and the Suspension Matrix, which are moves that clear everyone. I might not even play the video, but Suspension Matrix, the one that makes everyone gravity up into the air, when you could like use the web bomb to insta-kill all of them. You have 4 uses of that, in addition to all of those other kills. Sure, all of these things are on recharge, but does any of that matter whatsoever when there's that many things? Oh shoot, things have to recharge even though I have things that will kill 12 people instantly without any effort required.
Web Blossom is undeniably the best one that can end crimes just by using it once off the bat.
I mean, it really depends on the context. I mean, Web Blossom is great.
Okay, he said I used it in the most close quarters area possible. In this review, there's at least 4 examples of separate clips where you can do that. You can go to every single crime and do that all the time.
But against boss fights, it's pretty much useless. The best one in that scenario would definitely be battle focus because of, the health regen. But at the end of the day, you've got 24 different suit powers to use. Just try one if you don't like Web Blossom and think it's too OP. Just use a different one. Use battle focus because that's probably the one that takes the most skill.
And this suit power...
Okay, you see, now this is where we get to one of the main flaws, which is something I addressed in this video. The concept of having to pull your punches in a video game. No one should be in a position where they basically have to tell themselves, oh no, I better not use the move that's gonna insta-kill everyone. I don't have to do that in Batman, where I'm faced with a bunch of thugs, and you know what? I pull my punches, and I decide not to use the move that will insta-kill everyone. Web of Shadows, or any other Spider-Man game, there is no option to do that. In Insomniac, it's pretty much objectively the case that in order to bypass this issue, you would have to pull your punch.
Unlike the Web of Shadows version of the move that isn't as powerful, and is given much later around the second half of the game when harder enemies are introduced.
It's pretty interesting that he's bringing up the fact that Web of Shadows has this move, but he's not bringing up the fact that they're largely implemented differently. Like in Insomniac's game, for example, it's a move on a cooldown. Like you have to build up the charge just so you can use it again. It's a one-time use attack before it needs to go on cooldown. Is it really that bad that it's that strong? Like,
now you see, that move isn't as powerful. I showed the use of it. He didn't, but not only that, this is a move. Do you remember the parts you get it in the game? Because I believe this is at like the 75% mark at that, on top of it not even being as powerful.
Plenty of suit powers in the game, but I and others never use them outside of a few niche circumstances.
well, that's bullshit because I used Battle Focus throughout my entire playthrough and I never changed.
Look at where I just paused the frame. There's no way you're gonna tell me that something that's gonna insta-clear everyone has a move that's better than it. Like, he may have a debate for boss fights as, you know, they are immune to this.
It's not even the only gadget he has that can end a crime instantly. Suspension Matrix into the web bomb. These two gadgets at least aren't given at the start, but you have this cheese to fall back on in combination with weapon blossom.
The Suspension Matrix is the only gadget that is not mandatory, where basically you don't get it from progressing through the story, you have to go out of your way to unlock it. And I would also like to point out that this combo is once again largely useless against the big enemies, because they just eat webs for breakfast and you really need to either ragdoll them into walls or perform finishes on them to reliably take them out. They just shrug off your gadgets like it's nothing.
This one can be spammed.
That is actually objectively false. The big thugs, with the exception of the DLC big thugs with the miniguns, this works on the big thugs still.
And they can take out everyone in a 20-meter radius.
No, it really can't, because even in your own gameplay, you can see that the web bomb has 4 charges before they need to recharge, and once it...
Like, dude, I said this crap before, and I guess I'll leave it in. Okay, the move that just took out everyone out here.
On the big thugs. It's quite common.
The move that just took everyone out here, it's okay because you could only use the move that took out everyone 4 times, even though you really only need to use it once. Okay.
Dude, the combat in itself is pretty solid at its core when not taking cheese into account, but I wouldn't put it on the tier of Arkham, Spider-Man 2, or Web of Shadows, which I'll delve into later.
This is actually a valid point. This combat in Marvel's Spider-Man is the weakest of the Insomniac games, and the Arkham games generally do have better combat. However, I do want to point out that these games have different combat systems, and comparing it to Arkham is something that I do disagree with, because...
Okay, this whole, oh, I can't compare it, it's a separate game. Yes I can. If another game does it better by a fairly drastically large margin, yeah, I can. Like, that criticism of, oh, it's different, don't compare it, really only works if you're comparing, like, completely different genres, like, I don't know, Spider-Man to Drive Club or something.
Just switch fucking suit powers.
Gadget gameplay is so horribly unbalanced that you can pretty much easily go without throwing any punches most of the time. You know the special combo takedowns and
Oh, right, and just for an insult to injury, yeah, that was a pretty wide area I used the move in, and it still pretty much cleared everyone.
horribly unbalanced that you can pretty much easily go without throwing any punches most of the time. You know the special combo takedowns in Arkham where you press triangle and circle at once? Well, Spider-Man took that and just lets you do 2 in a row on top of those gadget insignias.
This is half true. Yes, the game does allow you to do it, but only against regular enemies, and you need to level
80ish% small people, that's on a rebuttal.
I'll admit that the DLCs of the game actually add a bit of challenge with some enhanced enemies that aren't as easy to deal with, like some enhanced heavy thugs with a minigun. But even then, this thug only becomes a challenge because it defies the mechanics of the game by being immune to the cheese gadgets, which I honestly view as poor design in a way, as opposed to Arkham where no thug is really immune to a large portion of your gadgets, despite a move or two some enemies can avoid.
You think it's a bad thing that larger enemies are going to resist or potentially be immune to your shit? You do realize that large enemies, even in the main game, are resistant to some of your gadgets, like trip mines and the concussive.
But my point here, I was more gray, didn't really call it a bad thing, but my point here is that in order to make challenge, they basically had to delete everything you could do. Your comment basically said, in Web of Shadows as an example, when you try to web strike one of the bigger thugs or whatever, what was it called? That thing where it's like harder to do and you have to like counter the web strike. They do that more often as you progress the game. It made it harder, but it was, as you said, not impossible.
There was actually an element of like risk taking for that option. Like sometimes like there would be like the blue spider sense flash up, which indicates that they're gonna like counter, but like you would still be able to carry out the move anyway.
Yeah, as opposed to, okay, well, you just don't get to use these moves because our combat is so cheese that if we let you use these, then you wouldn't have difficulty. That's really the main point.
I would like to point out that no Spider-Man game has very good boss fights. Like, take Spider-Man 2, which is something you wank over. Like, the boss fights in that game pretty much just boil down to hitting random things or flicking switches.
Okay, now you see, this is like an interesting tactic that a lot of these Insomniac drones do when they can't defend their particular product. They basically just try to call everything else bad so that theirs looks good at the end of it. In terms of Spider-Man 2, while I can admit a lot of their boss fights were simplistic in nature, they basically made up for that with sheer difficulty for the most. Spider-Man 2, pretty great difficulty on their boss fights. I'm pretty sure everyone was dying in those boss fights. Even the simple ones where you're pressing switches, people died during that.
Like even 2008, Web of Shadows 10 years before this one. I think it definitely had great boss fights compared to Spider-Man PS4. There was variety.
And don't send me any shitty shorts of these fancy non-optimal Spider-Man combos when the guy could have just ended him in one web blossom or impact web, or oh, I almost forgot, the laser web trip line. That's another insta-kill.
So people sending you gameplay of very creative combos without the use of gadgets, that's invalid? Like, what the fuck? How does that make any sense? Like, they're literally making the most of the combat system, and your response is, this ain't it, chief.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Like, maybe it sounded like I was too harsh on the gameplay, but my point is there, as flashy and as cool as that looks, there's objectively no reason to do that other than it looking cinematic and cool when you could just insta-kill him.
The Arkham games aren't hard to beat. Web of Shadows isn't hard either, as I've almost never died in that game at all. But in those games, there's nothing you can do that's as cheese. Even in other Spider-Man games that aren't as up there. Even the Amazing Spider-Man games.
So we're in agreement that all Spider-Man games, or at the very least the ones you brought up, are easy, in addition to Marvel's Spider-Man PS4. So, okay, that's something that they all have in common, I guess.
How the fuck did he get to me calling every other Spider-Man game easy? I mean, like, I said that none of them are super duper hard, but there's nothing in those games that's as ridiculous as clearing the room, and that's a fact. Why don't you get me a gameplay clip of you clearing the entire room in like 3 or 4 seconds with one move?
Yeah, even like the special moves from Web of Shadows, like, you know, the big web ones with the red suit, like, you can't insta clear. I mean, it's gonna have like most of like the lower tier thugs' health, but like no one's gonna die.
If Spider-Man PS4 is a 9, then these two games become 7.
What, just because it's got insta-kill attacks that makes other games better? Like, the combat is a small chunk of these games. Like, that doesn't automatically boost the entire product. Because what about story, character?
Dude, did you hear how he failed to understand me? I basically said if Spider-Man was a 9, those games are a 7. And those are games that are generally called, like, 6 or 5s.
No, the thing is, like, you haven't even gone to the main story yet, so I don't know why he's... Like he literally introduced, I'm gonna start with gameplay, and now he's like, hey, why aren't you talking about story yet? It's like, yeah, because it's still in the gameplay segment.
I didn't even call those games better. I just said they're not as bad if this gets to be called a 9. That's... dude. F-tier comprehension.
Other categories of gameplay get even worse. Stealth. Now, I will admit the stealth takedowns in these Spider-Man games are pretty cool to watch, but the actual mechanics, like the combat system itself, is also handed to you.
This is also another valid take. Stealth in these games are pretty much dog shit, and this doesn't apply to the Insomniac games specifically. Like, pretty much all the Spider-Man games have dog shit stealth.
Dude, this is basically what I said earlier, where they just try to call everything ass so that this piece of ass doesn't look as bad. In any of those other Spider-Man games, or especially the Arkham games, they're not gonna tell you if it's just safe or unsafe to do that. That's extra baby mode. There's more challenge in the Spider-Man Noir segments, which I'll get into, or even the Amazing Spider-Man games. Both of them, and yeah.
Or even the first Spider-Man movie game, like the stealth into Oscorp. I fucking hated that because it was so hard.
Oh yeah, shoot, I never even mentioned it in the video. Yeah, that's another great point.
You know in the Arkham games, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions Noir segments, and even the Amazing Spider-Man games, where stealth exists, and you have to make the judgment call on if you can take this guy out without alerting others? Well, both of the PS4, Insomniac games, and perhaps its upcoming sequel took it upon itself to take the fun of judgment away, and they just tell you if it's safe or unsafe to take out a thug.
Okay, so by your own logic, you're objectively incorrect, because surely even if the game tells you whether it's safe or not, it's still up to your own judgment, whether you want to stay in stealth and reliably pick them off one by one, or whether you want to force combat early and take them on that way.
What? This is so stupid. What the fuck?
Dude, what is that copium?
What?
Dude,
okay, you can do that in any of the... What?
I don't know what that even means, dude. Well, you still have to decide to take the advice of it tell you if it's safe or unsafe. What the fuck does that mean? Like, I don't know, man. Yeah. When I heard that he was gonna be covering this, I knew as a matter of fact that there'd be no rebuttal to this crap. This is probably the worst part of it, because this is as objective as it gets. No other superhero game or any game that includes stealth has this. This is groundbreaking. He should have took his L here.
Yeah, no, the thing is, it's weird, because he's like, oh, I agree with you, the stealth is bad, but actually, no, it's not bad, because it's dynamic. You can decide whether to, you know, go in guns a-blazing, or, you know, take him out stealthily. I'm like, no, you always have that choice, no matter, like, what game it is, but in this game specifically, it tells you, like, okay, if you want to do stealth, you can take this guy out. If you don't want to, like, what? I don't even know what he's saying.
Now, I will give this guy some leeway. No matter how well a Spider-Man game can be made, I don't think it would ever have the potential to beat Batman stealth just due to how much more tied Batman is to that.
Since were the worst parts of the game for me. It's slow-paced, not mechanically interesting, and at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure you can be in sight of the enemies and they'll still not fucking see you half the time, so yeah, this part of the game sucks.
This is honestly the worst impractical stuff I've ever seen, especially for the Mary Jane that are even longer.
So you're going to go ahead and make the exact same points that he just made, despite the fact that he just said that, oh, you're going to go ahead and make shallow points on something that he... So therefore, both of your analyses are shallow. I feel like it's like one of those situations where I can criticize it because I like it. Even if you make the same criticism, you can't because you don't like it as much as I do. It's kind of like with like religion. Like you see people like debating their religion among each other, but then when someone else who is not a part of that religion like chimes in and makes the same point, you're like, hey, we didn't ask you. This basically is his religion, I suppose. If instead of like praying every day, you're just fucking playing this game every day.
Dude, look at where we paused on. He's in sight, and that guy's not gonna see me.
But what you're avoiding and pointing out is that these sections make up a very small portion of the game. Like,
I mean, like, going through a game you like, but then being met with, like, 3 or 4 moments where you're forced to play something you don't really like, even if it just adds up to that amount of time, that's pretty bad. There's no moment in Web of Shadows or Spider-Man 2 or other games where I'm rolling my eyes as much because I have to do this boring segment of playing as a normal person in a superhero game.
SpongeBob already, but I'm about to mention another kid's game. When I was 5, I played this Madagascar game. It was my first game ever. And I swear to God, stealth of sneaking around as a zebra was more practical than knocking down toolboxes.
yeah, and care to explain what else you can do in that Madagascar game?
Dude, this guy wants me to compare Madagascar, a game from 2005, to Spider-Man in its entirety. Dude, I think it's pretty clear that the point is that the stealth, even in a kid's game, in terms of that individual aspect, wasn't as much of a joke.
Super duper great in comparison to the stories of other games, like Red Dead Redemption that delves into the lost values caused by modernization, Metal Gear Revengeance that tackles the topic of having to break the rules and lost for the greater good, along with past Spider-Man games and Arkham games I'll delve into later in this video.
You almost had me agreeing with you with everything you said, right up until the last part. Fuck right off if you think the Raimi Spider-Man game has a better story than this.
How does that add up exactly if people really like the movie of Spider-Man 2, and the game is based off of that story? How does that equal bad? Now, granted, there's some minor changes, but for the most part, the story is significantly the same.
Although I don't really dig the tech direction they took with a blunt brute like Rhino. Vulture did the tech direction better in Web of Shadows.
Yeah, now you're gonna mention that in the Amazing Spider-Man game, they make all of Spider-Man's rogues fucking animals. Like Rhino, for example, he's literally half rhino, half man. Scorpion, the exact same with his respective species. And how you're gonna talk about how that's less comic accurate than just giving the guy a suit of armor?
Yeah, that's an actual interesting one I don't really have an extreme rebuttal to, but I do respect the creativity of the Amazing Spider-Man doing that for the sake of their theme instead of just, doing it to rip off Lois and Doomsday. But anyway.
So, like, this is a review of this game. So, like, how does he know that you're not critical of that in The Amazing Spider-Man? He criticizes you in the comic accuracy video for referring to external media, even though the whole, like, notion of accuracy is based on how similar it is to how it usually is. Now over here he's criticizing you for not referring to external media for every little thing when this is just a review of one game. And you are referring to external media for this review because there is an element of comparison to it. But now he's getting, because like he's criticizing you, why do you keep comparing it to other games? And now for this part he's like, oh yeah, but what about that game? I don't know, it's all over the place.
Yeah, no, he's just really desperate for a gotcha moment. I'm sorry I didn't review The Amazing Spider-Man when I was 12 at the time, but anyway.
If MJ was bad from a gameplay perspective and a story perspective, let's try and fail to briefly get into it. Mary Jane broke up with Peter earlier because she felt like she was being babied by him, apparently, and she doubles down on this when she whines about Peter swinging and saving her after she was endangering herself for info by sneaking into a Sable military base with no special martial arts training, and Spider-Man is apparently in the wrong.
Right, because you have a blind biased hatred towards MJ in this universe, just because she's actually got aspirations outside of Peter Parker.
Misrepresenting you based on what he thinks you are rather than what you are, because he'd done a little bit more digging, he'd see that me and you have a excellent, and I would say definitive defense video of Raimi's MJ. And the crux of that video is the fact that she is indeed her own character rather than just an extension of Peter with her own aspirations and goals, which is what gets her so much flack, because people view those films from the perspective of Peter exclusively instead of relating to MJ's struggles. So no, again, you're just strawmanning. Like, who are you arguing with? Who are you debunking? You're debunking yourself. You're debunking this figment of Joker in your mind who isn't actually a real person.
Peter gets me. Black Cat isn't as atrociously written. She's sort of written like the standard Western woman in a way, as she lies and strings Spider-Man along by telling him that she has a son that may be his.
He did not just say that. The typical Western woman who lies and manipulates. Like, how fucking sexist.
America has the highest divorce rates, but I'm not saying every or most women behave like that, but in terms of the trope Yeah, I mean, like, I do my research when it comes to statements like this. Like, similar to what happens in the game, Black Cat lies about her son, as I said. Similar to the statistic on Murray, where most of the men that go on there actually aren't the father. I was actually very thoughtful when I said this, but I know, this guy's just fake white knighting, so yeah, I don't know. Good luck thinking it's gonna get you some box when it's not.
Even though she doesn't have one at all. Dislikable, but similar to She-Hulk, it's realistic, I guess. She is partially a villain.
Let it be known, guys, this guy said it on camera. It's realistic for female characters to be pieces of shit.
She even does those bad things.
Yeah, sad. I mean, women can be pieces of shit, dude. They're not all fucking queens. I'm not saying they're all demons, but dude, they're like men. They could be bad, they could be good.
Again, he's resorting to the black-white fallacy. It's either this or it's either that.
But now, we'll finish off the gameplay with one of the most important things in a Spider-Man game. The swing. Just like the gameplay I've covered, hand it to you. It may look cinematic and cool, but it takes no skill and does everything. When you hold the right trigger to initiate a web swing, but you don't let go of the right trigger, the game will automatically let go of the swing for you and have Spider-Man do a jump. Which therefore means you can pretty much just move the analog stick forward and hold the right trigger down without ever letting go of it. And it'll do everything. You will traverse the entire city just doing that. You'll automatically wall run with that same button and jump over everything, etc.
Yeah, and your gameplay will look fucking dog shit as a result because you're choosing to go on auto.
Resikin, did that gameplay look too bad to you? Because that was me just pulling the right trigger and moving the stick forward. Did that look that bad?
No.
Yeah, that
actually looked pretty decent.
That looked like I was playing the game. Like, if I just uploaded that, no one would have thought that I just did that. Now let's cross-reference this to Spider-Man 2 and Web of Shadows, which I'll show you a clip of, along with me holding the controller. If you do that there, you will not move. You will look like you're not doing anything. If you do that here, as shown, the game still plays itself. I don't even think I need to entertain any, like, depths of, like, the additional moves those other Spider-Man games have, if it's gonna go as far as to let you do that. There's other YouTubers that have covered it, but unlike Crispy, I'm not gonna resort to just cutting to some other content creator.
It's objectively slower than the PS3s and Xbox 360s, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, and the PS2s and original Xboxes, Spider-Man 2.
Literally the only thing that previous Spider-Man game swinging systems have over this game specifically is speed. That's it.
Just glossing over a PS2 game and a PS3 game being faster than a PS4 game, that's pretty jarring and pathetic to me. It sort of goes against the concept of console evolution. For example, Arkham Knight got faster than Arkham City. It didn't get slower, and meanwhile, they're evolving but backwards.
However, instead of watching the rest of the video, which, I'll be honest,
As you guys just saw, he cut around the 27-ish minute mark of the video out of 35 minutes. Now, maybe you could argue that he did this for time, but the last video was 58-ish minutes, and this one was 47, which therefore leads me to conclude that this guy just cut everything after, because I was about to embarrass those games further via the main point of, like, the review was to compare it to the past, and he cut it short right as I was about to get to that. Even though Crispy cut up my video, you could at least argue he was cutting for the sake of time. For one, cinematics over substance, the Sinister Six, which was an advertised part of the game. That's just a cutscene. You don't actually fight them. In Spider-Man 2, it's not 6. You get a boss rush mode, where you get to fight 4 of them at once. They got closer to a Sinister Six boss fight than a game that specifically advertised it, but you never mechanically engage with it in the game. He cut the Amazing Spider-Man context where I mentioned a character, Whitney Chang, who sneaks in via, a security suit disguise, as opposed to, the toolbox and the spider rock throwing. Or even more in-depth mechanics of, like, Web of Shadows and Arkham surpassing it that I already went in-depth with. It also would debunk his sexist narrative, as I sort of said a bit before. I like playable characters, and one I really liked was Catwoman in Arkham City. I guess my sexism just vanished with Batman for some reason, even though that's one of my favorite superhero games. He cut that because it would have embarrassed the fuck out of him and Insomniac. So, yeah, he decided to not pick a losing battle, I suppose.
Yeah, also, most importantly, I believe that he cut the latter part of the video out is because at the end of the review, you give a final verdict, which is a 7 out of 10, which is objectively choice, an above average score for a game. Instead, you cut that out. Why? Because you're still arguing with this construct of Joker in your head, and you want to make that construct line up with the video, even though they're two separate things, and present this idea of him to the audience that he somehow hates the game. Because if he hated the game, I highly doubt he would have given it a 7 out of 10.
Anyway, that's about it for all of these Dookie videos. We really tried to get everything in this video, but given the subject matter being pretty fictional, we had to put the Katanas fans collab video for another day because, yeah, I don't think it's going to be right to mix in those fictional subjects with the serious, desperate accusations of calling us racist. That's pretty much a wrap. We're not burning any more time on this loser apart from that racism video where this guy who looks like this wants to tell us about our standards on women when I know dang well he's not touching anything. I pity the 3 out of 10 he got that will have to endure his negative 2 out of 10 genes, but whatever. I'll see you guys.